even with the droves of us going into social science, we don't even know who we are, where we come from, and where we are going. Without the stubborn determination of Africans from the diaspora, most of the history and geography taught in African educational institutions would still be colonial education. In fact, it is still colonial education. We have watched as countries as China, India, Israel, Pakistan, countries that gained their independence almost at the same time as most of us, acquire nuclear capabilities. Africans don't even understand those areas of scientific undertaking. Let me just say, Sheikh Anta Diop was a nuclear scientist, by the way, but obviously he was taught in France. Yeah? From the time we are born, we are taught to hate everything African and black. And that is the key to it, people. From the time we are born, we are taught to hate everything African or black. We are taught to value the Caucasian culture over our own culture. We are taught to value the Caucasian history over our own history. The miseducation starts from the day we enter school, when the African child is confronted with the first nemesis of cultural annihilation. The language of his culture is repressed in favor of the English language. Let me say, I know, I spoke to Nigerians. Nigerians will look down at people speaking their own Nigerian language, like Yoruba or Igbo. They look down at you unless you can speak the English language. If you speak the English language, they look up to you, which is crazy. How can you look down on people speaking your own tongue, your mother tongue, from your ancestors, and laud people who speak a foreign tongue? The African race is the only race, together with the American Indians, who have been conquered historically, culturally, socially, and economically. The preservation, effectiveness, and ultimate survival of a race depends exclusively on their ability to communicate effectively in the language of their culture, a better lasting and history. The oil companies are mere what makes a race formidable and distinct is the effective use of their language. The Chinese have it, the Japanese have it, the Indians have it, the Pakistanis have it, the Germans have it, the French have it, the Swiss have it, Flemish have it, the Walloons have it, the Koreans, the English from Britain don't only have it, but they spread their language and culture beyond the small island where they emanated. The Arabs, bless Islam, have it as well. And through the expanding embrace of Islamic faith, more and more people are preserving their language and culture, which is a very, very poignant point. In the next 20 years, which is about now, because this book was written in 2000, most of the African languages will be extinct. Swahili, Igbo, Hausa, Fulani, Akan, Yoruba, and all other languages will give way to the onslaught of the English language. Excuse me. Now let me say that he may be wrong with that, because in parts of Africa, there is major talking now, major talking, that they're going to make Swahili the language of the African continent. And I'm talking about many nations. They are thinking about making Swahili the language of the African continent. Because it's spoken in East Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, many nations on East Africa, which is millions of people speaking. They may want to spread across the African continent. So they are thinking in the right. I mean, we are waking up slowly, too slowly sometimes, but we're waking up. The main thing is we are waking up. Africans delight in talking about how their children can speak with either French or English accents. Let me stop here. I remember the Ghana president, of Ghana. He said a few months ago, I'm sure he wanted to make French their second language. So English will be the first language and French will be the second language. So what about your own languages? Don't we think sometimes? Are we Europeans? Why would you all make French and English and French, our first languages? Africans delight in talking about how their children can speak with either French or English accents, with no trace of the heavy African accent. Most of us cannot converse with our children in their own languages because we have been taught to avoid our own languages. That does sound like a people who've been conquered. One of the first languages to become extinct is the Igbo language, spoken by more than 40 million people in Nigeria. The Igbo are a group which has become an embodiment of a race without a culture, history, or language. This race embraced English so wholeheartedly that brothers and sisters and parents and friends and relations born from the same backward village cannot even hold a discussion in the Igbo language without the use of an English language. They are the first major group in Africa who have totally abandoned any semblance of having a culture or language, having abandoned the African culture to the English culture in a vain attempt to ape the English way of life. The second annihilation which confronts African children when he or she begins his school life is the name he must answer to. As a conquered people, Europeans, especially the English and French, insisted that Africans abandon their historical names to answer to their own names: David, Michael, Paul, Peter, John, Andrew, William, Walter, etc. They insisted that if Africans had to become Christians, they had to abandon their names, which are historically and culturally rich. Same thing with Islam. Islam says you must change your name from Ade to Allah, Muhammad. Why does God want us to change our name to an Arab name? Aren't they supposed to be the God of the whole planet? You mean my African name was not good enough for God of the whole planet? Had to change to an Arab name? That should give you the idea that it's Arab culture you're being indoctrinated with, or European culture. Why does God want me to be called David, Michael, Peter or Paul, Andrew or William? Sometimes we just don't think about what we're doing. As most Africans name their children after their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, relatives and others, the abandonment of these names lost significant connection to our past and ultimately to our future. And I hope you notice that it's linking our past to our future. Our history is not just about what happened before. Our history is about what's happening today. And once you know what you did in the past, you know what you can do in the future as well. History is the key. History is the only phenomenon we explain today. What criteria explains the world today? There's only one criteria, and that's history. But history is linked to the future, because what you have done in the past, you know you can do in the future. So history is one of them. That's why Europeans spent so much time and money rewriting history. They colonized history. As well as colonizing the image of God, they colonized history. And this is another reason why we act like we do, because we believe lies to be the truth. And if the lies are saying that Africa's never done anything, then it becomes true, it becomes real. We never did, so we must look to these other people. Please, Master, can you show me what to do? It's ridiculous. But it's only ridiculous when you know. When you don't know, you just do it normally, because it's normally. If my mother, which she was a Christian, and she's on a strong Christian, you'll find, she's going to teach me to be a Christian. And if I don't understand, and if I don't read anything other than the Bible, I'll make my children Christian as well. But my children had an African naming ceremony, by the way. Me and my wife had a Yoruba wedding ceremony. It had to be done. We need to go back into who we are, to go back to our center. But when you don't know, you keep on aping these people who hate us. Why not school myself and name somebody who hates me, who murdered my ancestors? The Caucasian churches in Africa are the leading offenders in annihilating the culture and history of Africans. Since the first Caucasian arrived in Africa, let me repeat that. And it's not me saying this, is Chika saying it. The Caucasian churches in Africa, you know, he doesn't say the Christian churches, he says the Caucasian churches. And that is very profound. The Caucasian churches in Africa are the leading offenders in annihilating the culture and history of Africans since the first Caucasians arrived in Africa. I have read through the Bible and have not found where it says that answering to a particular name is necessary to become a Christian. Of course it doesn't. And yet, it was a condition that the churches adopted to force Africans to abandon their historical and cultural names. And in doing so, destroying a key part of our culture. When a race, and this is written in capital letters here, when a race is able to discern the attempt to annihilate their culture and history, but rather chooses to do nothing but continue with the practice that their race is stupid. I have never seen a European adopt an African name, despite the fact that some of them have lived or were born in Africa. They are not a conquered people, so why would they want to answer to African names? They don't value their culture and history. The conquered people must be made to change their names in favour of the conqueror. To see these children, especially priests, insisting upon these foreign names, in the belief that the person cannot be regarded as true Christians without answering to English or French names. They neither understand the historical antecedents of how the change of names was used to enslave Africans, nor how this is still being used to continue the cultural and historical annihilation of a race. So you can see how powerful this book is. Because sometimes you say to people, and they don't listen. We were not given Christianity for our benefit. We are not given Islam for our benefit either. We was given it so we adopt the culture of the people bringing you Christianity and Islam. That's why you must change your name to Muhammad, Ali, and the like, Peter and William. One day, the masses of us will understand, because some of us don't understand. So the people I speak with, we know what's happening here. And I hope that many of you guys listening to this now understand what's happening here as well. But what it is that we're given a religion, because when they came to Africa, the Africans said, okay, we want to trade with you. They said, you must become a Christian. They said, we all want to build factories. They said, you must become a Christian. Anything you want to do, you must change it. So when you become a Christian, you change your name to European name, and then you start to adopt the European, because the other thing Christianity is a European cult of Christianity, by the way. They want you to adopt European culture through following their cult. They made a shame of our own God. They made a shame of our statues and our carvings, of our symbols. They call it juju, and all kind of different terrible names to make it things. Yeah, what is juju? Toys, they say. Yeah, toys. You know that they're called Africans without children. Why are they called Africans children? Because we'd invite them into our house. They know that they're coming to kill us, and they invite us in. So they're just like children. That's the only thing wrong with our culture. Not that we love humanity, but we do not see our enemy for what he is. And let me say, in Japan, when the Portuguese Christian missionaries brought Christianity to Japan, the Japanese saw what they was doing, and they expelled all the missionaries. And they took all the Japanese Christians to the temple to make them get back to their own culture, their own cultural beliefs. And those who did not go back to cultural beliefs, the Japanese killed them. They saw that it was a fifth column. What's the fifth column? It's people within your culture who are working for the outside. And when they want to take over your culture, they'll take it over. A fifth column is like a Trojan horse. They'll come inside like it's a gift. Okay, it's a gift. And before you know it, all the troops jump out and kill everybody. But unfortunately, Africa, because of our hospitality nature, we invite these people in. And then before we know it, we call ourselves Peter, Paul, and Mary. Before we know it, all our wealth is gone. Before you know it, we got the Bible. And that old saying, and people laugh, but it's a true thing. I think it was Jomo Kenyatta said, when we came in, they gave us the Bible, told us to close our eyes and pray. And when we open our eyes, they take all our land. So anyway, this is Brother Jegna here. I say to you that please, what we do for ourselves depends on what we think about ourselves. And what we think about ourselves depends on what we believe about ourselves. And what we believe about ourselves depends on what we are taught. And if you're taught by other people, then you're going to believe the words about yourself. And that means you will not do the best for yourself because you feel you're incapable of it. Yeah. So this is Brother Jegna. We had a great program here. I'll be back again with you next week. Please remember on Wednesday the 27th at the Ma'at Centre, 366A, High Road, Tottenham, N17, we are showing the Resurrecting Black Wall Street. Please be there. 7 till 10 o'clock. It's a great thing. There'll be free refreshments there. We'll have a discussion after as well. Resurrected Black Wall Street at my Art Centre, 7 to 10 o'clock this Wednesday, the 27th, yeah? N17 9HD. So have a great week, people, and I'll see you next week again, yeah? One love.
This show is sponsored by Glass Arts, 730 Seven Sisters Road, London, N15
It's be fixed for next week.
Call Glass Arts for all your glazing needs on 0208 800 6663 for your glass and double glazing repairs, shelving, tabletops, splashbacks, mirrors, shower cubicles, balustrades, and balconies.
You can trust Glass Arts because they are completely transparent.
Wake up, people, wake up, wake up, people, wake up now, wake up, people, wake up, wake up the people, Lord, wake up, wake up, people, wake up, wake up, people, wake up now, wake up, people, wake up, wake up the people, Lord, wake up. It's all right. It's okay.
We'll finish, yeah? Nice one.
It's